Hey there, my friend. It's Tricia Carr. Real quick before we head into this episode, I just want to make sure that you know about Modern Mystic Life, a subscription service for spiritual mentoring and education. The monthly subscription is only $11.11 per month. We have regular support and inspiration delivered with the utmost ease right into your text messenger 2 to 4 times per week. You can use your mobile device or your desktop messenger to access the lessons and meditations, a monthly MP3 download of a produced meditation, at least once per month live meditation led by me. There is no account login, and we have a monthly live class workshop. These are usually $35 for non-subscribers, so it is quite a deal. And the community is amazing. This is a way for you to support the Charmed Life podcast and also a way for us to be able to work more closely together. So do check out how you can subscribe in the show notes. I hope to see you there. Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe, and I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr. We have a very fun, exciting, enthusiastic, and potent episode for you with my very special guest. Her name is Teresa Shantz. Teresa is the host of the podcast Enthusiastically Spiritual. I was recently on it, and I had the best time talking with her, both on her podcast and my own. So as we head into this conscious conversation, allow me to welcome you. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you for giving yourself this time to immerse in spiritual connection, because that's what is serving us all. It's serving you and it's serving us all. So thank you for setting aside this time. Also, just thank you for gracing my beautiful podcast with your energy. It's a beautiful podcast because of you. So thank you for that. And I wanted to encourage you to please, if you would like to give me a review, scroll down in your app and you can give some stars. You can leave a few words. That is one of the most powerful things that you could do for me for this podcast. If you do resonate with it here, that will really, really help to appreciate and expand our connection with one another, but also us being able to help others to find it. And I think that's so important. In a manner of speaking, this is a spiritual community. The people who come on and the way that we are interacting through the even the recorded materials, we're time traveling to be together. And it's so when you leave a review, it boosts it in that algorithm, that Google algorithm, and then it will be better suggested to other people. And who knows, and maybe your review that helps someone else connect with it to give them that hope today. So there is my invitation. And I also want to invite you to check out the show notes for Teresa Shantz's offers as well as my own. I am regularly launching my various intuitive development programs. There are workshops and development circles. There are also the more immersive programs like animal communication and multidimensional mediumship. These are both happening a few times a year. And we have forthcoming also energy healing and channeling. I'm very excited to continue to expand my Intuitive Healing Arts Academy, and I invite you to become a part of it in the way that is right for you. Also, just to invite you to share whatever it is that you are finding resonant for you. Of course, what I'm offering, but I mean, if you're reading a book and you get that nudge that your friend or your relative or your coworker, that it might support them, you could casually drop it. I'm reading this book and I really found a lot of hope in it, for example, so that it isn't, pressuring someone or giving uninvited advice, just the ways that you can follow the little nudges in your heart, because I think that's what we all benefit from. That's probably how all of us got a little bit of a nudge down our spiritual paths. So there are my invitations to you. And now let us get into this conversation with Teresa Shantz. Teresa is on a personal mission to help others understand and embrace the spiritual part of their journey. As an extremely sensitive person, she walked through a large portion of her life not understanding how sensitive she was to energies around her. She served in the U.S. Air Force, a full-time homemaker and mom, massage therapist and healer, and now she is a full-time podcaster and spiritual way-shower. She loves living by following her heart's desires and being enthusiastic about life. Teresa just published her first book called The Soul Quake Survival Guide, Reviving Your Connection to Spirit in Earth-Shaking Times. I'm so excited about this book. We recorded this like right at the time when it's about to become available. So as I record this, I don't have access to it, but it's like literally 2 days from now. So I'm got chills right now because I'm super excited to get her book. And, we talk a little bit about it. She gives us a little bit of a taste of what you'll find in the book. So let's get into this conversation with Teresa. We go through awakening. We go through the work that we're doing. Conscious conversation with Teresa Shantz on your way here. And I will chat with you on the other side. Teresa, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. We had such a fun, enthusiastic, and enlightening conversation on your podcast, which is called Enthusiastically Spiritual, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay,
It was
good. I was like,
super enthusiastic.
yeah. I set myself up for that and I was like, oh, am I going to get it wrong?
No, you're enthusiastic. You got it going, Tricia.
Meanwhile, it's right over your shoulder. She's got and for the listener, she's got a neon sign. It's so beautiful right over her shoulder of her podcast.
So I don't forget.
Good. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to share some vibes with the Charmed Life audience and followers out there.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Well, would you like to tell us about your journey and the work that you're doing as, an enthusiastic way shower?
Well, where do I begin? Let's see. When I came in this lifetime, no.
Exactly.
It's
Which
like,
life?
yeah, exactly. Which lifetime? Well, this one that I contracted right now. So, yeah, coming in, Tricia, I really didn't realize how sensitive I was and didn't understand all about being a soul in a physical body, not a physical body with a soul.
Yeah.
But throughout my life, I've had so many challenges with, especially with skin,
Mm.
psoriasis, eczema, and then down the road, it was autoimmune disorders.
Yeah.
And it all really stemmed to when I look down the road and understood the bigger picture is the fact that I'm a super sensitive person and
Yeah.
being, that energy being, and affected by the environment. I grew up in an alcoholic environment.
Mm-hmm.
People, obviously they didn't know how to work with their energy. So I was feeling everyone's emotions and the things they were, experiencing within the house and also the work places I worked at. And so in going through life and having all these things pop up, and then down the road, fast forward to when I was 38, I went to massage therapy school. And at that point, I started putting pieces together. And then it was later, about maybe 10 years later, my 40s, when I realized what the aspect about me being an energy being in this physical body was all about. And so I'm really passionate about and enthusiastic about sharing with people really how to live in these physical bodies.
Yeah.
Because, as energy beings and being spiritual and metaphysical and whatever people want to, label themselves as far as, how they're exploring their journey, which is all amazing, but we have to live life. We
Yeah.
have to really be practical and understand that, when I move into a place and I'm feeling strange or I get a nauseous, or how do I discern that? And how do I understand all that I'm feeling in my life? So that's the Reader's Digest condensed version for you of just being a sensitive person, Tricia, and really recognizing later in life that, or midlife, that there's more to understand, there's more to unfold. And that's the excitement I get about going out in the world to the expos and fairs that I do with my husband. We're with tntspiritworks.com. That's our website. It means Tom and Teresa, and that spirit works in our lives every day.
Mm.
So we're both on a mission just to really support people and just really, show up where they're at and meet them, and then just guide through how to work with all this other stuff, the unseen aspects of our life.
Mm. We have a lot. We have a lot of parallels. I had an alcoholic and abusive, and super sensitive. I would love Do you know your human design? I'm like, I would love to
I
see your
do.
chart.
I'm a projector.
Oh, okay. Are you emotional or not?
I think I am emotional.
Your authority is
Yeah.
emotional? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And do you know if your head center, if the top, like the top two centers, if they're open or if they're colored in?
They're colored in.
Okay. And I'm just
Yes.
interested in how everyone perceives it because I remember at some point someone saying, which I haven't, I say someone saying because I haven't necessarily found it always true, but the skin issues may have to do with an issue with the crown chakra because
Mm,
it's the largest organ of the body. That's the top
mm,
or highest chakra. But I don't know because there's other ways where we might bring in the spiritual environment, the ecosystem, whether it's human or spiritual. So anyway, I'm just curious, but yeah, projectors are always super sensitive because you're here to be a guide and you are taking in everyone. You take in everyone
mhm,
one at a time, but you take them in completely and
mhm,
fully. So I get that. And also that means you're non-sacral and
mhm,
everyone who is non-sacral, we have so much conditioning because we are operating under a kind of work schedule or expectation that doesn't really work for us. And
mhm,
it's like you said, we have to be practical. We have to live in the life. So we have to figure out how to balance those things while being correct with our energy.
mhm.
So thank you for sharing all of that. And so was it sort of almost an awakening, would you say, in your 40s, or just was it how would you characterize what occurred in your that time when you discovered that your sensitivity and to bring that into your life in a real way?
When I look back at my life, I recognize that there were times when I was absolutely guided from spirit to go
Mhm.
down different tracks. Like I went into the military at
Mm.
17,
Oh gosh.
and I went back to my previous lifetime. I went right back to Germany.
Mm.
So I served in the military over there in my previous incarnation. So
Ah.
went right back there into healing. So that was one opening that I didn't even understand till later in life when I started having flashbacks of that lifetime and then
Mhm.
skin stuff around that lifetime.
Yeah.
And then moving forward, again, there were just events that happened in my life where I was like put in place at the right moment. And massage therapy school was one. And as far as like having, I hear people say, "Oh, I just had this moment and I just knew." I had like specific moments where, I felt one with all. And I mean, it
Yeah.
was okay. I like to tell this one, Tricia, because it was really weird. I'm sitting literally in with my old family that were a beautiful family, but they didn't understand who I was and the things I was exploring. Okay. So I've since moved out of that family.
Mhm.
And I was at Applebee's with them, of all places. And all of a sudden I'm hit with the feeling that one with all. And like I was just immersed in this, overwhelming love. And
Wow.
I'm sitting here going, what do I do with this? So that was one opening, I would say was an opening in Applebee's of all places. But
The
like
Applebee's. The
that,
Applebee's
yeah,
experience, you know.
it's the Applebee's opening. You know how that is. I don't even
That
go to
pull.
Applebee's anymore, but it's like that.
Yeah.
So that was one time, and there were other times too, doing like kirtan where I'm chanting and I
Mhm.
feel
Yeah.
spirit. And but as far as one major event, I would say it all just was accumulation of these
Yeah.
amazing times. So, yeah, that's what I would say. And just in the recognition of that, all of it plays a role. And at certain times when my heart was more open in Applebee's, it happened. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah. They're gonna have like a summit event at the Applebee's because there's a portal there, you know?
Hey, you
Teresa
never know where
discovered
they're
it.
at, right? This is
Yeah.
being practical with it, Trisha.
Exactly. I mean, that would be a smart place to put an Applebee's. A lot of people going into that spiritual vortex and getting that attunement, hey.
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely.
So would you say that it sounds like were you always a kind of spiritual seeker, metaphysical, mystical kind of seeker, pretty much throughout your life? Was that a pattern that was open to you? Or did you have some other kind of paradigm? Like some people had religion or just heavy, like dogmatic science even can
Mhm.
pull people into, have a kind of awakening or opening to moving down that metaphysical exploration. How was yours? How did that work for you?
Yeah, so my early memory of that was when I was like around 4 or 5 going into kindergarten, and we moved into a home, and there were ghosts in this home.
Mm.
So my mom and my grandmother always talked about ghosts or things like that, and always had experiences. But so I went to this house, and I was a little kid, and there was like a shed next to it. And I walked into the shed, and the first thing I saw was a Casper the Friendly Ghost game. So there was an acknowledgement that we are friendly, and there
Mm.
was all kinds of things that happened. And again, I was really young, and I just recall my mom telling me things, and I'm sure I saw things, but I was, I can't recollect them, recall them now. But that's, yeah, so it started then. So there was no real religion.
Mhm.
There's probably an undertone because my mom was affiliated with Church of Christ when she was a young kid, and my dad was Catholic, being I'm half Mexican. So I'm sure there was an undertone, like we all have that, the religious aspects to our, who we are as a collective.
Yeah.
But I wasn't raised in any. So going down the road, I just kind of did this and that. When I was in high school, I actually went to a lot of different churches with friends to
Mm.
explore,
Yeah.
and had some interesting, openings at that time frame, because I was open. And the energy of moving into a church is very similar to the energy of being in a spiritual meditative state,
Yes,
so it was
absolutely.
that ecstasy. And
Mhm.
I went to this event one night with a bunch of friends in high school, and it was like this thing where they broke ice. It was the weirdest thing, but all
Hmm.
these people were breaking ice, and it was just so, like, I was alive. And I
Wow.
remember, just coming out there going, wow. So I explored it then, but didn't go back into it in life, and just kind of went down the road. And with my kids, I didn't raise them any religion or anything. And then everything else just kind of started opening up from there.
Mm.
Hmm.
That's amazing. And yes, all spiritual explorations, you can find spirit there. And
Hmm.
even
Yeah.
and you can go
Hmm.
to some church and maybe it's very dry and they're just kind of doing things by rote, but there might be
Hmm.
someone there who's deeply connect. I don't know.
Hmm.
No, there's no I just curious how people when I was a kid, I took myself to church. My family didn't go to church. I kind of like you, starting when I was 11, I hitched a ride with friends who went to church
Hmm.
because I was a spiritual seeker and that was what was
Hmm.
presented in my world as what
Hmm.
was spiritual. But I also like got little astrology scrolls and I loved the esoteric section in the bookstore, but I didn't know what to do with it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So anyway, that's really I love that. I love those experiences. It makes me a little curious to go to some churches even now, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
To see what's going on there and to connect with the people in churches. I just haven't I don't know. I get that nudge sometimes when I drive by a church and I'm like, "Ooh, that one feels cool. I want to go in there."
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because, like, when we travel around, Tom and I do, I love going into churches. I
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
do, especially
Mhm.
Catholic. I mean, I've had so many
Yes.
lifetimes of being Catholic, and Tom was raised Catholic. So we sometimes go to mass with his family when we go up to Minnesota, and I feel home because
Yeah.
I'm so familiar with that vibe, and so familiar with, all the different techniques and the things they use. And I really like it now. A lot of the other aspects of the dogma and stuff, I
Mhm.
don't want to go down, but the feeling, it's like, yeah, I've been here, done this so many times. So.
I have a teacher. She taught me mediumship early on in my education, and she was, and I believe she's still, even though she's a medium, she still identifies as Catholic. And for her students, I didn't actually do this, but I know she recommends for some students who are going through some pretty big healing patches, maybe they've had a recent divorce or something, really upsetting. And she recommends that they go sit in a Catholic service a few times. Just, she's like, not because of how they view, you know, things, but it's very healing. There's so much healing and it's such a sensorial service. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the lights, the colors, the stained glass, the incense, and the chanting. It's really pretty. I've only been to like a couple of them, and they struck me very in a deep sensory kind of visceral way. So I get that totally. Yeah. I was wondering, I would love to hear about the work that you're doing now. So you had some time in the military, which would have been very hard for a projector. Thank goodness you were young, at least.
Okay.
And then you mentioned the massage therapist, which is
Mhm,
a healing service.
mhm.
And then, yeah, so what have you been doing as, to help in addition to the conferences that you mentioned that you and Tom do? Tell us all about the work that you're doing, if you will.
Well, the work I'm doing is constantly changing, as we all are. So, right now, I'm really working with some consultations and helping people really connect with their spiritual helpers, with their
Nice.
energy, understanding how to work with your types of perception, your psychic abilities.
Yeah.
I'm coming out with a new book called The Soul Quake Survival Guide, Reviving Your Connection to Spirit in Earth Shaking Times.
Ooh,
That's taken a lot of my time in the last 2 years working with an amazing developmental editor, Deb Evans, of how to really help people and give that guidance to others as far as really how to work with all these unseen parts of us as we move through what I call these earth-shaking times. So
yeah.
I grew up in California, so I really start that the journey of the book there in the having earthquakes. And when we go through things small and large in our lifetime, it can shake us at a core.
Yeah.
Anything from even being cut off by a car can shake us, the kids, the dog barking, a death, divorce, all kinds of things. And so the book really gives a just a kind of a guide for people to kind of relate to some of the stories I share, as well as giving. I have 12 spiritual awarenesses in the book to
Mm.
really guide you from everything from like the bigger picture to your spiritual helpers to how to understand how to just take a breath back and like take it easy from what you're all experiencing out in the world, because there's so much going on, as there always
Mhm.
is. But yeah, so again, I'm kind of, there are things evolving, and there's going to be some things coming up because I'm birthing this book soon, so there'll be some new things coming up. But overall, I would say my mission really is to support spiritual people who are really seeking and trying to understand more about who they are as a soul.
Mhm.
And it just kind of shifts and changes along the way. Again, from like the massage therapy, I did Reiki, craniosacral, to this. So, really the mind, body, spirit aspects around supporting people where they're at. So that's, and then, like I said, going to expos and metaphysical fairs. My husband and I have been doing that for the last couple of years, and a lot of that is, of course, meeting the people, but really seeing where the energy of the collective is at right now.
Yeah.
So we just attended one this past weekend and one 2 weeks ago, and it was really exciting, Tricia, because I don't know, I'm picking up 75%, honestly, of the people that walked in the door were new people.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
interesting. And we will be right back. Hi, friend. It's Tricia Carr with an invitation for you if you are ready to accelerate your ascension and connect to the swift flow of your life mission. Mind Body Ascension Acceleration Coaching. All of my clinical training, my experience from teaching and providing countless sessions and classes, one-on-one, group coaching, healing, reading, teaching, channeling, as well as my calibration as a human design reflector. I'm offering all of this to you to step up your entire life, to accelerate your ascension walk. If you've had a single session with me, if you've had coaching, or if you've experienced transformation from any of my offerings, my classes, podcasts, videos, well, this is an accelerated and exponentially charged. This is what my soul has prepared for an eternity and up to now. And if you hear this call, then this is also co-created with your soul. Your life is meant to be joy first and a service as a close and integrated second. This coaching is especially tuned for high achievers who want to accelerate their progress on their life mission and create mind-body well-being and higher attunement. Submit to work with me in this powerful container, this premium coaching. If you feel the call, you can do it. I guide, you take action. I hold the resonant projection field, channel your steps, and you take action. The first action step is to fill out an application, the link to which you will find in the description. Be prepared, be ready to upgrade your mind, body ascension, and your connection and flow with your spiritual mission. And now back to the show. I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because the next thing I wanted to ask you about, so I just want to encourage you to keep going, is like, what do you think about these times? And I hesitate sometimes to say that, because I feel like that you look in different religious paradigms and they're like, this is the time, but there is a thing happening, right? We're in a thing. Talk about the
Absolutely.
times, if you will.
Well, I guess what I will share with is, like, I believe that 2020, that was a big
Yeah,
break. I
absolutely.
get the visualization of like an egg cracking.
Hmm.
And no matter what we've all been through, which has obviously been a lot, it had to happen.
Yeah,
And so it looked like that.
yeah.
And so people are coming out from, and depending upon what level of consciousness people are at, because I believe there's thousands of levels of consciousness, and we're all in different places depending
Hmm.
upon where we've been in our past, which makes up who we are today. So in that egg breaking open, and then people's inside having soul quakes or heart opening or whatever it looks like for people, it's really where as a collective we just really had to go.
Yeah,
And it's interesting because I think back a couple years before that, and people kept talking about pandemics. So, like, the intention, right? Where your intention
yeah.
goes, things flow. So it's like it just happened to look like that, unfortunately. But I think also, yeah, it's just I mean, for myself personally, I am excited to be here right now. And there's what, 8 billion people on the planet. So there's something really big going on. If people are like, I don't know if what's really going on, but with as many souls on the planet right now, there is massive stuff going on. So does that answer your question?
Sure, because
Hmm.
we don't know. We can just
Right.
feel it, and
Hmm.
we can see results of it,
Hmm.
like 75% of the people at the expo being
Hmm.
new.
Hmm.
And so how do you do you have any advice or thoughts, people that are newer to even beginning to consider that they can follow a soul trajectory rather than some kind of conditioned matrix, whatever you want to call it, patterning,
Hmm.
and to go from, because we feel very unsafe in the world, and then to be able to make that transition to feeling safe and safer by being connected to spirit, including like your guides and your helpers in spirit.
Hmm.
How do you support people who are in that place of the transition?
Well, for myself, it's moves from the feeling.
Hmm.
So moving
Yeah.
into what are you feeling?
Hmm.
And, it depends on where you're at. That could be, what am I feeling in my body right now? Or what am I feeling like energetically? So it really depends upon the person. But I like to start with feeling. And what I told a lot of people and share with a lot of people, I shouldn't say told, what I share with a lot of people this past weekend is trusting in what you're feeling, and then moving from there, as far as what resonates with you, like calling in your guides for help, like and support, like Trisha's saying, we all have a team of master souls that we've contracted to work with before we came in, and they're working with us our whole lifetime. And these master souls are souls that have mastered the planet, and that you've contracted to work with them because of what they've mastered. So that's some of the work that Tom and I do. We believe in, and we have a master team. That's outside of the galactic support. That's
Hmm.
outside of Mother Mary, Jesus, Buddha, all the other ascended masters that are out there, and all kinds of other beings and stuff. So really tuning into what you're feeling, and that
Hmm.
to me is the really the key to start with, because how is everything feeling in your body, and what you're doing day to day.
Hmm.
And I guess I also like to talk about, like in setting intentions for how you want your life to be day to day, just starting with the really small things, like getting up in the morning. Okay, so how do I want to feel today? And like even writing it down and saying, okay, I want to feel happy today. And then, and that intention of, moving through your day with that happiness or that love or that different expression that maybe you didn't wake up actually feeling, but I want to feel this today, can make a difference in moving forward. So really, Tricia, it's really about being practical, but it doesn't have to be like complex.
Yeah.
That's the thing I like to share with people. It's not, I mean, we have all kinds of techniques and tools. All of us do that we can gather and use, and it's amazing. But it's really just being practical with, calling in your guides, calling in your angels. And like I said, just maybe even intentioning how you want the day to be or how you want an event to be for yourself, because we're all unique and we're all having these unique experiences. And so making your experience unique like you want it to be is really a key also.
We have to be reminded, well, we have to be taught sometimes, or
Mhm.
yes, reminded in the sense it would be natural for us about that, the strength of intention. Because
Mhm.
when we're banging around in the world, well, just the suggestion of intention, you're like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's subtle. It is like profound and beautiful, and it's your home frequency, but we are so pulled away from that that it feels like elusive. And so we have to, I feel like even when we're on the journey, we have to be reminded the
Mhm.
intention is the governor, and it really is what is moving you in your life and what is moving things to your life. It is the thing that the law of attraction works on, if you're looking
Mhm.
at that. And, that I think that is a big part. That might even be the thing when you talk about helping people to connect with how they're feeling. Because sometimes people, they're like, I don't know. Like they've been basically conditioned to stop being connected to how they feel, whether it's in their body or their emotions or all of it. It
Mhm.
just feels like it's empty. But again, the intention to connect with that
Mhm.
is a step in it. And it always works. Doesn't it work every time?
It really does, and I guess
Mhm.
from your talking about, and like the collective right now and outside of us, yes, everything outside of us, from the media to the politics to whatever, wants you to not have that own
Yeah.
personal, inner wisdom and
Mhm.
control and freedom, that spiritual freedom, and whatever it looks like for you. So it's key, and again, it's to each individual as far as where they're at in their journey, where they're at in their level of consciousness, as far as where they take this to. But I'm sure most people watching or listening to your podcast, as well as my podcast, are open to exploring and open to going, okay, so how am I feeling, even though it may be hard to get there. The intention,
Mhm.
it's really, yeah. So it's just, to me, it's about, I like to do, it's called KISS, KISS, keep it spiritually simple.
Oh, I like it.
Mhm. Yep. So get a kiss every day. Just keep it spiritually simple.
Mhm.
I share with a lot of people too at these events, and just trust in what you're picking up. So
Mhm.
even though the feelings might be one thing, but like if you get an insight about something, oh, what's the trust? Just start trusting and believing in all the things that we work with in the unseen realms that are of support really every single day.
Yeah, there is a thing that I think we also are kind of influenced to think of spirituality, mystical and metaphysical sort of flavors, if you will, of it. And that being psychic and everything, that it is something that is outside of our control. It's something that happens to us. And
Mhm.
yes, there are remarkable events like your Applebee's event, or like someone going, grandpa was standing at the end of the bed. Those
Mhm.
happen. But moreover, every moment of your life, it is it validates you. Your team will validate you. They don't want to take away your power by always like plopping down in front of you in a miraculous way, in a way that you feel like you can't control. They want you to seek your own sovereignty and your own trust in yourself. That's the everyday journey, even if we have spectacular things that occur sometimes.
Absolutely. And so what I believe too is that spirit does their 50%, but you have to also do your 50%,
Yeah.
so they meet you.
Mhm.
And that's an important aspect, because it's, a lot of people are like, I just want, come and help me, help me, help me. Well, no, you have to get off the couch. You have to, get dressed, or you have to do whatever to meet,
Mhm.
meet yourself, so that way you can move forward in a different light. If you
Yeah.
choose to, we have choice.
Yes. And there's no one saying you're doing it right or wrong except you. It's just for you.
But then it's like, are you feeling like I'm experiencing more love in my life, or I'm
Right.
suffering more, or I feel
Mhm.
expansive, or I feel contracted? I mean, so those choices and the things that we intention or we work with in our, the spiritual part of us, can support the journey.
Mm.
That's what I found. Even though I've gone through all the psoriasis and different and autoimmune, understanding how to, really all about the energy aspect of me has been supportive. So I know now if I start feeling weird, oh, okay, so there's something going on here. Let me, start really figuring out what it is for me. And it's also, it's not like an overnight thing. I mean, like my
Yeah.
discernment has taken time,
Mhm.
because it's subtle. So the more I work with it like a muscle, the more I am aware of when something comes in or someone's thinking about me, and all of a sudden they come to my mind. I'm like, oh, someone's thinking about me. But that wasn't how I was 5 or 10 years ago. It's subtle. It's
Mhm.
really working with these gifts and figuring out for yourself how these things show up for you in your
Mhm.
realm.
And what we're talking about in a lot of ways is self-love and deepening that self-love, um, that relationship. How do you have any ways that you either for yourself, any practices that are for yourself or that you help others to cultivate to be able to increase that self-love?
Well, as far as other things I teach people, so like there's cleansing techniques, and I always
Mm,
like to also start with, having people just kind of connect with their energy.
mhm,
So there's some things like that. But that, yeah, and just really calling in that guidance and feeling
mhm.
the support of those around you that that come into your really your realm, and some people feel goosebumps, some feel a sense of warmth, or an increased in their energy when they call in their guidance. And that right there, without really doing anything else, calling in your guidance and feeling that support can increase the self-love because you start
Yeah.
feeling better.
Mhm. You start
Mhm,
being and it's like they see you. When you welcome them to
mhm,
show you how they
mhm.
see you, then you feel and see yourself. When your team
Absolutely.
yeah. Because it's resonance, because
Mhm,
you feel them and resonance feels good. Resonance is a positive feeling. It's
mhm,
merging with another energy in a way that is helping you and everything to expand, and that feels good. And again, just to highlight that, some people do have those responses, but sometimes we need to continue to welcome and affirm and just trust, right? And sometimes
mhm.
that people are all on their different paths and there's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think right now where we're all collectively at too is we're looking for community. We're
Yes,
looking for people to validate and to share with. So that's a lot of what I excitement that
true.
I get when I go to the expos and fairs, because people come up and, "Oh my gosh, Tricia," they tell me all this really crazy stuff, and I'm like, "I get it."
Yeah.
You could tell me anything and nothing would throw me off
Yeah.
at all, seriously. And that's a good thing, because then people are like, "Whoa, she shouldn't think I'm crazy. Shouldn't think I'm nuts." No, you're just having your experiences, and and sometimes it's, challenging energy, sometimes it's supportive, but having others, and or like this podcast, like, hearing things or reading a book or whatever can go, "Oh, I resonate with that, and they had that experience too, and so did I, and I get it, and I'm not crazy." I think that's a big thing, especially for the younger, up and coming generations, is that they're so open and they're having so
Mhm.
many experiences. And like this past weekend, we actually worked with quite a few people in their 20s, which was
Oh,
so exciting because they were ready to understand more about their psychic abilities. And so, being out there and really, getting that validation for yourself wherever you're at, that the things you're experiencing are normal. It's just the unseen parts of us.
it's spectacular and normal. It's really interesting that because we kind of, the world, the harshness of the world, if you will, it's like for something to be special, spectacular, or miraculous, it has to be rare. And that's not true. You can actually
Mhm.
live a life that is miraculous, and it doesn't diminish how miraculous it is, even though it's more frequent. It's kind of it boggles the mind a little bit to think of it that way, but that's true. We're like living a miracle when you're
Absolutely.
open to spirit.
Right, and I like to say there, the hunches, insights, and impressions that we get nonstop, like hundreds a day from spirit. So
Yeah.
you're right, Trisha, like being in this physical body, if people had any ideas, people go to my booth and they're like, blah, blah, blah going on. I'm like, I'm not in a good place. I said, look, you're not 6 feet under. You're still in a physical body. You're living life and you're doing pretty good if you're not 6 feet under and you're in a physical body.
Yeah.
So I think people don't validate themselves, or really appreciate what they put together for themselves and still to be here.
Mhm.
Because as we know, there's a lot of people right now who are leaving the planet.
Yeah.
And so to still be in a physical body and having these and willing to be here and to have these experiences, it's a blessing, and showing gratitude for where you're at and the things you put together for yourself in this moment is so important.
Mm.
Mhm.
What do you advise if someone is having tell me the name of your book again. I don't want to get it wrong. It's
The
so great.
Soul Quake Survival
Soul Quake. I
Guide.
thought it was Soul Quake. Yeah. If
Soul
someone's
Quake.
having a soul quake, can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about how they survive it? What's in your guide?
Well, what's in my guide,
Mhm.
again, I share a lot of my personal stories. It's
Yeah.
kind of compact. So like it's kind of like my podcast, but different, but my podcasts are mini morsels. So this book is
Yeah.
also mini morsels. So it's not like, real lengthy. I'm a real kind of compact person. I don't know if that's part of a projector too, but I really
Oh,
am.
yeah.
Is
I
it?
can imagine that. Well, what I think projectors do, the way I envision the energy, so you plug into others
Mhm.
and you absorb them. It's almost like your aura turns into a straw and you absorb them, and it happens from your identity center, which is basically the higher heart, and you absorb them entirely, and then you kind of like sift it and sort it and you shake it down and then you give it back to them as this compact wisdom, only if they're invited though. I mean, only if you're
Right.
invited, because people can't receive it if they don't ask for it. But I do see it as this compacting that you give back, and I think it's so beautiful. My husband's a projector, so when I invite
Oh,
him for to give me advice, it can be just so like potent. That's what the compactness is. It has this potency to it. Do you relate to that?
absolutely, because that's how I do pretty much everything. I don't need a lot of details, etc. So that's what I've not put in the book. The book is compact, and there's small stories about things I've been through my whole life, and to relate to how it might show up in your life. And I have a street team that's been reading it for a while, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I so resonated with the stories because I've been through that, or I can relate because I've had someone else experience." So in going through a soul quake. And in this book, there are, like I said, there's 12 spiritual awarenesses. And they're really unique because you can go, read them you could like go from 1 to 12, or you could pick like number 7, or what I feel like today, maybe number 2, and really get a sense of uniqueness about your journey and how to really revive that connection to the spiritual part of you and moving through things. But it can also, yeah, it can really be kind of like a la carte,
Mm.
it's not
Mhm.
like a step 1, step 2, step 3. It's just like these are the 12 awarenesses, and you can kind of select them as you go through it.
Mm. And so with those 12 awarenesses, I'm imagining taking them in and contemplating them and savoring them to see how they open up in your own energy. Is that is that a correct kind of reflection? I'm a
Ab-
reflector, so I'm going to
yes,
reflect.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I'll give you a couple. I suggest or tell you what they are. Like one is
Sure.
calling on your spiritual backing, turning down the dial,
Yeah.
rising above, getting that bigger spiritual picture like the eagle's view, giving space, honoring your unique journey, discerning outer influences, and then embracing the psychic perceptions. And I give all 4 of those. So that's a little, of the chapters of what's kind of in the book, the 12 awarenesses. So it is exactly that, Tricia. It's really just kind of taking a minute and going, okay, let's sit with this. And then in the back of each chapter, there's a little journaling exercise, and there's an affirmation, and there's some cleansing. So there's some techniques you can do to also support where you're at.
I love it.
Mhm.
Wow, so beautiful. Projectors are here to give us that guidance. Projectors are the guides of I want to say new era, but it's current. We're here, but it's still like unfolding. And projectors have. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of tension and pressure feeling for projectors because you feel that, but you're not always recognized by the greater, unconscious matrix of
Mhm.
human, you know, thought and manifestation. But I love that you're moving in it with your podcast, with your book, with the ways that you're interacting with community and providing that guidance. It's really beautiful. I thank you for it so much.
Oh, well, thank you. And I appreciate all that you're doing, Tricia, and also bringing me on today and just allowing me to share because I love sharing and it's a win-win-win, I feel. Win
Yeah.
for me, win for you, win for your listeners, and a quarter, it's a quattro win. Win for
Yeah.
spirit.
That's right. Win, 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 win.
Win, 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 win. We can probably keep it going, but we'll just stop at 4.
Yeah, we could.
Because in
Well,
Tarot, 4 is joy. So
well, you have the book out, and so you said you're working with people. How can people, in addition to the podcast, what are all the different ways that people can work with you or partake of your way showing light?
well, I would say going to tntspiritworks.com is the
Mhm.
primary way because there you can go and you can see the events. I'm in the Midwest of US. You can see where we're at there. And that'll also have, the podcast on there. Or if you already have a podcast channel you love, you can check that out. I'm on, all of them, as well as YouTube is TNT Spirit Works YouTube channel. But so I think tntspiritworks.com is the best place to go to, because that's like the hub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, this has been just so amazing. You have such bright, hopeful, and inspiring energy. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And again, for all the work that you're doing on our beautiful world, Teresa. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Tricia. I so appreciate you too.
Well, I do feel very enthused, filled with spirit from that time that I spent with Teresa, as well as the time that I spent with her on her podcast. So, be sure to check that out. It will, just go find Enthusiastically Spiritual podcast and, listen to the episode I'm on, or listen to whichever one is calling to you, or listen to all of them, of course, and check out her book, that Soul Quake Survival Guide. And I want to just end this podcast by encouraging you to find community, spiritual community. And that could be, there's many ways that could occur. It could be some kind of online community. It could be joining a course. It could be to go to your local metaphysical store and see when they're having classes, or maybe new moon or full moon circles. Go to sound baths. Maybe it's your yoga studio. Or maybe it is going to the expos that Teresa and her husband Tom are visiting. It really is, I find it to be an integral and highly important part of the journey of the person who is on this spiritual path. And you know what I mean by that. Everyone is on a spiritual path. We are spirit, so how could we not be? But I mean intentionally seeking to be in accordance with your soul's energy. Perhaps you feel that you have a mission or are on a mission, which is your own mission, your own calling, to be of service, to continue to expand in your own life, because that is the contribution to the universe. Your expansion is the expansion of the universe. And community really helps to expedite that journey, and that expansion helps you to feel that you are correct and as spectacular and miraculous as your life is. And also we have this spiritual osmosis thing that happens. This is what I call it in my group programs, because when you're in their company and you're in community with someone else who is expanding and growing, you also kind of catch that. It's a positive kind of viral catching that happens. So it helps to eliminate fear of what's happening in your journey. That's one of the major medicinal components of it as well. When you realize that other people are having pretty spectacular things happening, then it helps you to embrace and trust what is happening for you, and to even welcome them in at a deeper level, and to lean into them, if you will. So spiritual community, I encourage you to really, seek that out, and may start with setting the intention first, right now and today. Okay, well, that's what we have for you in this podcast. I want to remind you that I do have Instagram and YouTube, and those are the main places, but more importantly, to sign up for my newsletter, which you can find the link in the description here. Click through. That's how you're going to find out about all the programs that I'm offering. It's the best way to stay in contact. And when I have something like a special, when I launch a program, I usually do like a kind of 48-hour, maybe 72 hour, usually 48-hour flash sale where there's a little coupon. And it just mostly goes to my newsletter. And you just get a little bit extra off, and, get the opportunity for that. But also just to be able to know when these different offers come out. And so there you go. That's what I have for you in this episode with Teresa Shantz. So thank you so much for being here, for shining your light on our beautiful world. And thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.